Hello and welcome to part 8 of this tutorial on how to create a full-stack website using MongoDB, Express, React, and Node. In this part, we'll continue working on Redux state management with our blog reducers and blog actions. So let's get started. Inside our blog reducers.js file, copy the blog list reducer and paste that down below. We'll rename the constant to blog create reducer. For the initial state, we'll set blog to an empty object instead of an array. For the success case, we'll get rid of both pages and page. Switch blogs to blog. For the request case, we'll set loading to true and set blog to an empty object. Now for each case, highlight the first word and rename them to create blog request, success, and fail. Make sure to remove the S on each case name. For create blog success, we'll add in success and set that to true. And we'll point blog to the action.payload since that's all it contains now. Add in a case for create blog reset. It will return an empty object. Now copy and paste this reducer down below. Rename the constant to blog delete reducer. Rename the cases to delete blog request, success, and fail. Get rid of the reset case. Inside delete blog success, we don't have any payload, so remove that, leaving loading and success. For the request case, we'll get rid of blog and just return loading true. The initial state will be an empty object, so remove blog. Copy and paste this reducer down below. Rename the constant to blog details reducer. For the initial state, we'll set blog to an empty object. Highlight the first two words of each case, then rename them to blog details, request, success, and fail. For the success case, we'll return blog and set that to action.payload. For the request case, we'll use the spread operator to pass in the contents of state. We need to do this in case we have the info stored already and the request gets called again. That's it for this reducer, so copy it down to make another. Rename the constant to blog update reducer. Highlight the first two words of each case and rename them to update blog request, success, and fail. Add in a reset case. I'll just copy it from the blog create reducer. For the request case, we'll return loading and set blog to an empty object. For the reset case, we need to set blog to an empty object as well. And with that, we're done creating our blog reducers. I'll highlight each constant, then copy them all. In the reducers folder, inside of index.js, we'll import an empty object from our blog reducers file. Then paste in the reducers we just copied. Now in the combine reducers function, we'll rename each reducer to itself without reducer in the word. Blog list will be set to blog list reducer. Blog create will be set to blog create reducer, and the same for blog update, blog details, and blog delete. Now we're done in here. In the Actions folder, create a blog actions.js file. Import Axios from Axios. Import an empty object from our blog constants file. Back in our blog reducers file, copy all of the imported constants, then paste them into our blog actions file. Export a constant named getBlogs. Set it to some parentheses. For the first param, pass in page number and set it to an empty string by default. For the second, we'll pass in page size and set that to an empty string. Create an arrow, point it to async and another set of parentheses. Pass in dispatch, then open up the function body. Create a try-catch block. Inside of the try, we'll dispatch a type of getBlogsRequest. After that, we need to create our Axios request. We'll get some data back from our request, so we'll destructure data by wrapping it in braces. Set data to await axios.get. For the first param, we'll pass in our route, but we need it to be a template string. Now pass in /API/blog. It will have some query parameters, and we denote those with a question mark. Our first query param will be the page number, so set that to the page number variable. You can pass variables into template strings by writing a $, then wrapping the variable in some braces. Now to add our next query parameter, we have to use the ampersand symbol. So with that, we can set the page size query param to our variable. Next, we need to dispatch a type of getBlogsSuccess and a payload with the data. Now inside the catch block, if we get an error, we'll dispatch a type of getBlogsFail. And I'll copy the payload from our userActions.js file since it will be the same solution. Now copy that action down. Rename the constant to getBlogDetails. For the parameters, we'll just pass in ID. For the dispatch types, highlight the first two words, then rename them to blog details request, success, and fail. For the Axios request, our route will be /API/blog/ID, where ID is the param we get when we call this action. Now copy this action down below. Rename the constant to createBlog. We don't need any parameters, so get rid of ID. We need to bring in getState, which is how we access state inside of an action. Now highlight each dispatch type and rename them to createBlogRequest, success, and fail. After that, below our first dispatch, we'll create a constant and with braces we'll destructure user login. User login will be set to some braces with user info inside. We're pulling user login out of our state, so set that object to getState. Next, create a config constant and point it to an empty object. Here we'll define our headers. I'll just copy that from our user-actions.js file, as the content type will be the same. After the content type, we need to pass in our bearer token, since this is an admin protected route. Set authorization to a template string where we pass in the word bearer. Then with a $ and braces, we'll pass in our userinfo.token. The Axios request will be pointing to /API/blog. For the second param, pass in an empty object. For the third, pass in our config object. Make sure to get rid of that extra slash on the route. Switch the Axios request type from get to post. Now we're done with this action, so copy it down and make one more. Rename the constant to update blog. Pass in blog as a parameter. Change the dispatch types to update blog request, success, and fail. Switch the request type to put. For the Axios request, we only need to pass in our route. It will be a template string since we need to pass in our blog ID. The route will be at /API/blog/blog._ID. So with a $ and braces, we'll pass in the blog._ID. We're done with this action. We'll continue working on our state management in the next video. Thanks for watching.